Good. Welcome to Caribbean Thought. You guys know we are in the US and we are experiencing extreme heat here. I don't know what it's like. What's going on in Jamaica? What's the weather like in Jamaica? What's the weather like in Jamaica, guys? What's the weather like in Jamaica? What is it like out there in Jamaica? It's hot. I know it's always hot, I presume, and it's the summer, but are you guys having probably hotter than usual weather there in Jamaica? Okay, Monique says yes, a bit hot. Okay, I visited when I was in Jamaica, I think towards the end of May, the first week in June, it was very hot. Yeah, it was very hot. Um, we are gonna wait oh, quite a few people are on. That's good. What's the can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Sir?
Yes?
Yes, sir.
Is it clear? It's not okay, it's clear. Good. Today we have a guest, and just so you know, he's going to be on at 7:30. But his name is his name is King Shawa. King Shawa. He's a musician. But he's more than just a musician. He's a musician. He is a theologian. He is a priest, a member of a part of this a congregation that I'm just learning about. He's an Israeli priest, but he's a black Israeli, Israelite. He's a black Israelite and he's a priest. But he's not coming today to represent his congregation or his movement or his people. He's coming here to talk about music and the philosophy of music, the history of music, from a Caribbean perspective, from a subaltern perspective. King Sawa is Trinidadian, and I guess I probably should wait because he's going to come back, and I'm going to have to do this all over again. But he's originally from Trinidad. He lives in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He's a Trinidad artist. What's Trinidad? What's Trinidad? Who is a Trinidad artist? Does anybody know what Trinidad is? Does anybody know what Trinidad is?
No, no, sir.
You don't know?
Uh-uh.
All right, great, good. So don't Google it, okay? Don't don't Google it. All right, don't Google it.
I've heard it, sir, but I don't know what it means.
Oh,
I can't remember.
what? Okay, oh, you can't remember. Okay. But what if you can't remember anything about it, or do you have any inclination of what it might be?
Does it refer to a group of people or something like that?
No, not necessarily. So that's great. I'm happy he's coming here. Don't worry about that. So he's a Trinidad artist. He's coming here to talk about music and, in a sense, the philosophy and the history of music. But I want him to come and talk about Caribbean music. I want to talk about the Caribbean, the development and the history of where did Caribbean music come from? Where does it come from? We said that the Caribbean is an invention. If the Caribbean is an invention, does that mean the music is also invented? We said that the Caribbean is made up of people who have been hybridized, but people who are also detached. But as human beings, people who are alienated, according to Frantz Fanon, he talks about how within colonialism, the colonial world, and even beyond the colonial world, beyond Frantz Fanon, where the human is alienated from his environment and himself. He is created and conditioned to occupy a space and to accept an identity, even though he or her may not be predisposed or accepting of that particular identity, that mold. But we said that Caribbean thought looks at trends. Caribbean thought looks at currents that have led to our politics, to the socio-political economy of the Caribbean, that has given rise to our music. And when you study Afro-Caribbean traditions in the Caribbean, a lot of the Afro-Caribbean traditions had promoted a kind or a type of music. Kumina, Mento, Jamaican revivalism had a kind of, and of course, when you look at slavery, part of the slave resistance, part of Black resistance, part of the resistance movement was the utilization of various art forms, which also involves music. So as you think about that, then of course you're left with the idea, with the fact that the music that we have in the Caribbean comes out of struggle, comes out of our resistance. And the music also comes from experiences that people have over time. And when you guys, we explored the islands of the Caribbean and look at the history of the Caribbean and the peoples and where they come from, and we saw all over Africa where these people came from. We also saw that there are people here in the Caribbean, which continued, and many of them still exist today, who are descendants of the original people, the Carib people, the Arawakan people, the Taino people. They are still here today. Okay. And they had music too. So of course that has come to form. So of course that has to be part of the music, part of the experience of the people. So when I do study music, then of course music is quite interesting when you start to study music. You know, Caribbean, we talk about Mento and Kumina. And even you talk about Rastafarians, they have their music. In Christianity, we talk about gospel or Christian music. And various faith and religion have a kind or a type or a style of music. But one thing is important is that music is a universal language. Almost every culture, there is no culture that is without music. There is no culture that is without music. So every culture, in a sense, have some kind of rhythmic art form. And the music also is also part of, we talk about language being part of cultural identity of a people because it speaks about their experiences, but music as well. And then when you start to study the Caribbean and the kind of music, and we talk about in Jamaica, we have reggae music, and in other parts of the Caribbean, like Trinidad, there is calypso or soca music and so on and so forth. But they all have this kind of, but music involves beats, it involves rhythm, and the ability. And not only that, when you study philosophy, we talk about the philosophy of music. Part of the philosophy and understanding of music is also involves reception. When you look at communication is to make popular what was the monopoly. Communication involves the sender and the receiver. Communication involves a context, and the context interferes and affects both the sender and the receiver. And depending on the context that you are in, that can corrupt or give rise to a particular understanding of stimuli that is being communicated. but um, but music is part of music as is which is music is also communic. When you think about music, we talk about thinking about entertainment, but music is also a part of communication. People communicate their ideas. We said that music is a part of art. It's a part of as just as poetry is part of art and so on and so forth. And art is communicates the deepest feelings and emotions of people in a very artistic, colorful way. Music gives color to people's feeling. Music gives color to people's experience. Music gives color to people's everyday life. Or music is also cathartic or provides and facilitates catharsis. As much as we know that it's part of it's also born, it's all music also is part, the music that we have is born out of struggle as well, especially within the Black experience. But music is not only just for people who are part of struggle, because we know that music is international. Every culture we said have music. So it's very important for us as a Caribbean people as we think about this class to talk about music and how and we have reggae and so on and so forth, and how these music have how the Caribbean music have developed over time and where it comes from. Does it come from Africa? That's a very important point. Part of this class is to expose you to learning, but this class is this class, Caribbean thought, is part of a philosophical understanding born, and that philosophical understanding comes from post-colonialism. We are post-colonial skeptics, and we say that post-colonialism explores the legacy, the continuing legacy of Caribbean people's experience, and part of that is slavery. But one of the most important one, and part of that, and not just the past, but also the present, how we adjudicate and compensate for our experiences. Is music one of the ways we do that? Whatever the case is, I'm so happy that King Shawa has decided to speak with us today. And I'm happy I didn't have Bob Marley's son. I'm happy I didn't have a professor at UWI coming here to talk about music. I'm happy that I have the person who is coming to talk to us today. Okay? Because as I said to you, I don't believe that we are all tabula rasas at this stage. We come here with stuff. We all have value. That's one of the things that we promote in this class. We don't privilege any one thing over another. We want to be exposed to information so that we can adjudicate and make and appropriate our own history and understanding of reality. Immanuel Kant said his history is a result of the varieties of human natures and circumstances. And I have said that human beings are driven by their natures, which according to Sigmund Freud, is made up of the id, the ego, and the superego. And human beings, we like to caress our egos. We talk about stroking one's ego. Yes. And so because of that, we have a responsibility to continue to revisit and to consider history. And I always talk about history from below. And Homi Baba talks about the traditionalist view of seeing things, the way of seeing things, the traditionalist view. She talks about, or the location of culture, or high culture and low culture, or she talks about the center as against the periphery. Homi Baba, who is from India, who wrote The Location of Culture, and has contributed significantly to literary studies, especially within post-colonial theory. Homi Baba has been instrumental in terms of highlighting the traditionalist view as against the peripheral view. Or when we talk about traditionalists, we're talking about the conservative view. But Homi Baba left from India and went to the UK and went to, I think she was a Rhodes Scholar, or if not, he went to Oxford. And many Caribbean people or from the former colonial world who goes to the global north to study, they believe it is a great achievement to be able to go to a foreign institution to study. It's a great achievement, and when you're finished, you have high expectations. But when you go to these institutions, they are the vanguards and the arbiters of truth, in a sense, the vanguards and the arbiters of knowledge, and so on and so forth, who continue to brainwash a particular ideological understanding of reality, promoting theirs over yours. We are suspicious of that in post-colonial theory. But Homi Bhabha talks about the conservative or the traditionalist view, where what was missing from the traditionalist world was those people who were off center, like V.S. Naipaul and Kamal Braithwaite and so on and so forth. When you read newspapers, when you read novels, when you watch films and so on and so forth, who is always the hero? Who are the people, the persons who are all the actors who are always out front on screen, dominating and maintaining that constant. It's always the person who is from the post-industrial, from the global north, or the person who is Anglo-Saxon. But the image of the black man, the image of the post-colonial, of the colonial, the image is always one that is suspect, always one that begs the question, one that is limited and mitigated and managed. And Homi Bhabha talks about the fact that he was not interested in that kind of literature or novels and the information that was from the conservative or the traditionalist view that had dispelled or removed the Caribbean or the black man or the brown figure, putting them in the background always. That is why we said in this class, language is important. We don't talk about third world anymore. We talk about global south. And so he said that he was interested in people like V.S. Naipaul, people who you don't see, people who don't occupy the mainstream. And so this class promotes that kind of understanding, and that is why I'm happy that King Shawa is coming here, because he comes to the fore with a different perspective that is worth appreciating at the academic level. He provides an understanding that is missing from the perspectives within academia, perspectives that we have to be exposed to so that we can make determinations about the reality of all things. And so I'm happy that King Shawa is here to talk about music and so on. And of course, he's going to talk about what Trinidad is. I learned about Trinidad a couple months ago because I didn't know what Trinidad was. And so I'm happy that he's here. And so he's going to talk about reggae music, but he's going to make a very powerful point. He's going to talk about the idea of music goes beyond culture. And of course, music comes from that which inspires us. It comes from an inspiration. And when you start to study inspiration, it's quite powerful. Okay? We talk about inspiration. So and as people at Jamaica Theological Seminary at this Christian institution, we talk about the inspired word of God and how men were inspired to write and so on and so forth. Music is not devoid from that very same experience. It comes from that which is deep within the human. That inspiration, we said that in the scriptures, we said that it is in God that we live and move and have our being. Music music comes from that inspiration. And so he's here with, I believe that he is here with us, and I'm not sure if he's on. Are you here yet, Mr. Sawa? And talk about music and probably introduce yourself. Welcome to the class. Welcome. We are so happy to have you. Welcome. The floor is yours. You can speak. The class finishes at 10 o'clock US time, but but we will give you until about 9:30, and probably after 9:30, if the students have any class, they can ask questions. Okay, the floor is yours. And then of course Kemori, and between Kemori and Fabian or Avril will do the vote of thanks. All right, go ahead, guy. Go ahead, Mr. King Sawa.
Hi, how you doing, everybody? Good evening, I should say. My name is Ramel McAlpin. My artist alias is Shawa. I am a reggae artist. I reside in the States and now in the city of Philadelphia. Originally from Trinidad, where I was born. I moved to Philadelphia from New York City. Music, Caribbean music. My take is a little bit different. First let me just say kind of music I do. I do dancehall. I do a lot of fusion music as far as like trap dancehall or what we consider R&B dancehall. I'm a lover of music. However, my take on music is not the same. I do not believe that music like people would say music originated from Africa, and it was the sound of the drum and the heartbeat is what originated music. I'm from Trinidad. I also play folklore drums, so I have a lot of history when it comes to origin, especially when it comes to like rhythms and stuff like that. But most of my belief, which I don't want to spend too much on, is on my personal belief. I am a Hebrew Israelite, yes I am. And I believe that music didn't come from Africa. Music came from God. All right, that's the first thing I want to say about music. That music came from God. When you read the scriptures, it tell you that there were angels playing harps. Even when people talk, they'd be like, "Oh my God, you sing like an angel." Those terms didn't just come about. There's scriptures in the book of Chronicles, First Chronicles, the 5th chapter, where it talks about the priests and King David arranging the choir, and they were called the Holy Choir, and they were singing, and the singing was so beautiful that God Himself came down from the heavens to witness this melodious act. So my look on music is that music is a gift. It's a gift of expression. The sad thing about Caribbean music is a salvage culture. We were all brought to our particular Caribbean islands by way of slave trade, and music always reflect culture, or the environment. That's how music come about. Music is supposed to reflect the attributes or the manifesto of those people. If we believe that that wicked people shouldn't be alive, then that's going to be reflected in the music. If we believe in love, if we believe in marriage, all of those things are supposed to be reflected in music. If you have a broken society, then you're going to get broken music. You're going to get music about lust. You're going to get music about murder, stealing, hustling, trapping, chopping the line, all of those things. So
wait, when you said you said salvage music?
Yes, salvage culture. Salvage. Okay. Yeah, we pieced it together based on where we was put at, and when we were given an opportunity to express ourselves, even through tribulations. You hear music about tribulation. You hear music about everything that goes on. Is the mirror of life. I think the thing about music today, especially Caribbean music, I think is held back by Caribbean people. Caribbean people have a limitation of what's the word I want to say? Discrimination against each other, especially when it comes to music. And it's weird because we're all the same people. And hopefully I could get to talk about that a little bit more in the end. But talking about this, how our
Oh my
culture was.
God, this is deep. This is deep. I love it. Caribbean music is held back by Caribbean people. I love it. This is okay.
Yeah,
Powerful. Sorry, this is good.
right. So what we salvage as a culture, especially when you hear calypso um or soca or reggae or ska or all this music came from,
Yeah.
zouk or compa if you're from Haiti, or salsa, merengue, all of this stuff. It's crazy because I play folklore drums
Yeah.
from Trinidad, and I did a lot of drum workshops. I did a lot of Caribbean drum workshops, a lot of African drum workshops. And when you do those workshops and we get around Caribbean people, right? And you get around drummers from Jamaica, which play kete drum, or they might be, you might hear with the Naya Bingi one drop, or what they call it, the heartbeat. The names of these rhythms, and these are all rhythms. These are the names of the rhythms: jazz, calypso, salsa, merengue, reggae. All of these are names of rhythms. PK, even the folklore songs that you hear from different Caribbean islands. Wine girl, wine for your lover. All these things originated on the drum, right? When we
Yeah.
did workshops with Spanish speaking islands and Spanish speaking countries, a lot of our rhythms correlated. We might have different names for them, but they were the same exact rhythms. And we played them the same exact way. Some of them are a little different, especially when it comes to like different rhythms, the name of the rhythms. Same thing with other Caribbean islands, especially the soca and the reggae and the jazz. Those rhythms that had those names similar. What was confusing to me in the beginning is when we did workshops with people from Africa, especially West Africa. You have famous West African drummers like Alatunji. These guys are known for touring the world for their rhythms, and their rhythms were not like our rhythms. The African rhythm is broken down into section. Like you have somebody just playing beats, then you got somebody playing the high end, and then somebody leading, or what is called cutting if you're from Trinidad, meaning that song, like the answer call response from the drum. That's what it's called, leading. And Caribbean drumming is all in one drum. Spanish drumming is all on one drum. We play in the bass, we carry in the rhythm, and we leading at the same time. And when we played with the African drummers, we would catch their rhythms easy, but they couldn't catch our rhythms. And I actually saw the difference there. And that's the first thing that got to me concerning Caribbean music, is that it is a clear difference between what we do and what came out the coast of Africa, which make me hold strong to what I believe in, that that music was taught to man by God. You have scriptures where it talks about the ram's horn. There's a high holy day amongst the Hebrews, which is called the memorial of the blowing of the trumpet. But God told him to cut the ram's horn off, and that blowing it, and you'll get a sound. And that sound is the beginning of technology. When you see the difference between when your television set go boop and this is emergency broadcast, or when you hear the bomb scares, that's the beginning of that technology, and all of that came from God. Slavery has robbed us from a lot, so that's why I say Caribbean music is Caribbean culture is a salvage culture. We piece together the best of us and we put it together in musical, poetic form of melody from different islands. And that's the sounds that you get, whether you got it from Trinidad or Jamaica, or whether you got it from Haiti, or whatever part of the Caribbean islands that you're from. So before I came to that wealth of information, I started off in the island of Trinidad listening to reggae music. If you're from Trinidad, you know this. Soca music only play from December to Carnival, which is around March. So you got from December to March. The rest of the year, what we're listening to is dancehall reggae. That's a heavy influence. So
Wait, that's good. It's important. Say that again. So she said soca music was from when? December to when? March?
this December to March, and then you get part of December because they're in the Christmas route, so you got a lot of parang. Parang is almost like, not almost, it is Spanish Spanish Christmas caroling, if you call it that. But when that Christmas is over, you get it from November, and then coming to Christmas, it'll shut down, and then soca music will pick up again all the way till March. And then for the rest of the year, you might hear spans of soca here, but it's dancehall, true Trinidad. So that introduction to reggae music came to me from that point. We would go to school in high school. I went to El Dorado in Trinidad, and the thing was chatting at the time. We call it the introduction we got to reggae music is watching tapes of Sting, Bounty versus Beanie or Ninja Man. So that's the introduction to the culture.
Yes.
So then I come to America and found out that my aspirations to become a reggae artist was being blocked by was the word Caribbean discrimination. You quickly find New York. You find the crazy thing about New York. If you want to learn about the whole Caribbean, go to New York because everybody is there. You walk down the block, you find somebody from Barbados, Jamaica, Trinidad. Everybody is on one block, and that's when I found out that it wasn't accepting for somebody from Trinidad to do dancehall music. I started working in a studio in Freeport, Long Island, called HCNF, ran by somebody called by the name of Philip Smart. Philip Smart has made a lot of famous reggae songs, especially from back in the day, like Stabbing in your cabin. And then I got introduced from a close friend of the family by the name of Shelly Thunder. So I started moving in on the reggae scene. And the first thing that they wanted for me is to sound authentic. So we would go in the studio and I would spit something and be like, no, bro, you sound too Trini. You have to say it this way. Make sure the twang thick when you say it this way. And it wasn't accepted for somebody who was non-Jamaican to do reggae music in that time. And that's what it was. If you wanted to do it, you had to be authentic, and we were schooled, we were trained and how to sound Jamaican, and just embody the culture. And from it was a very negative time for music for me, because I was getting hated on by Jamaicans. And then some Trinis would love it, and they'd be like, "Oh, but why don't you sing soca? Because that's our music." And which bring me to this where Caribbean music is so divided. For hip hop example, right? Hip hop, if somebody from down south doesn't sound the same as somebody from up north, New York, or somebody from Cali, whole different accent. But when somebody from down south does hip hop, nobody says, "Well, that's down south or south bad music." It's all hip hop. It might have a different sound, but it's still embraced in the hip hop family. The Caribbean wasn't embracing it at all. And I think that's where you get the Trinidad artists from. I think I experienced myself while I was in a studio where at that time, you had Bunji Garlin. I don't know if you ever heard about Bunji Garlin. And
wait, what's that? Bunji?
Yeah, Bunji Garlin, yeah.
Okay.
And you had a producer by the name of Goldfinger. He made the Log On, Step On, Chichima.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, and he had a rhythm, and he said everybody was saying, well, Bunji is the Trinidad bounty killer. So he said, I'm gonna make a rhythm, and I'm gonna put bounty and Bunji on it at the same time. And he said, I'm gonna put it out and it's gonna go crazy. And this is like about 2001. And everybody in the studio had an uproar. They're like, no, you can't do that. And that's how you could see the vision of the music and the unaccepting of it. And that's just the industry of music. It's so crazy. So during that time, the goal was to sound authentic, work on your craft, make sure you're on key, you're on notes. So skill was important. The business of music, at that time, before technology now, didn't really focus on the business of music. Today now, it's all flipped. I think I'm all over the place a little bit. Where
no, you're great. You're perfect.
So as far as I don't want to drift off topic before I really get a grasp of where like the Trinidad, because when you get to New York, you think that's when I found out like Bajans had their own form of dancehall. And a lot of Bajan artists that were doing dancehall didn't get accepted, so they just fall back into the soca, or you get the raga soca type thing. And then you had a lot of Grenadian artists that did dancehall, like Mr. Killer. If you check him out from the beginning, he started off as a dancehall artist, but it wasn't accepted during that time. So now you have this younger generation, which I admire so much. The whole Trinidad movement. Not too much on the topic of the music, but the mentality. They don't really care. This new generation don't really care if you're from Trinidad, they don't care if you're from Barbados, as long as the music sounds authentic. They don't try to sound Jamaican like how we were drilled from when we were coming up. You had to sound authentic to the music. They just doing that on dancehall rhythms. And some of the songs are, quite amazing if you ask me.
Yeah.
And another thing where music has changed is where the focus back then, and this is the quality of music. The focus back then is you had to be tight. Your skills had to be honed and sharpened. You had to have lyrics. You had to deliver right. You had to be on key. Yeah, you had to match the mood of the sound. Otherwise, you walk into a dancehall studio and there's 10 artists standing up in the hallway waiting for the producer to come in and throw a rhythm on, and it's dog eat dog. You chew an eye, and whoever could spit the best, so everybody's working on their skills. Whoever could spit the best, you get put on the rhythm. You put the rhythm out there. You bust. You made it. Today, that's not the focus. Today, the focus is the business. If you could promote yourself well on social media, if you could catch yourself on a viral moment, you don't need to worry about the skills so much because there's so much technology. You're off key, no problem. We put some auto tunes on that, you'll be on key. Or you're not delivering right, no problem. We'll throw tens of compressors and whatever technology they created. So the focus right now is not so much on skill. So the average Joe can sit in, and then the way how studios has changed, you had to book a studio, and nobody had $500,000 or $500,000 to throw into studio equipment. So you paid your money, or you hope somebody will come and believe in you and manage you and spend money on the front end, hoping to get it back on the back end. Today, all you need is a laptop and buy a couple plugins, and you're good to go. And you create music as like you was in Track Masters or one of Sony big studios from back in the day. So now the focus is not so much on the skill of music, but on the business of music. If your IG is popping, if you could create attraction with people are on your social media, on your YouTube, then you could have a breakout moment. And meanwhile, the whole while the Caribbean is fighting on this form of acceptance. The world has been robbing us. The industry of music is beating on Caribbean music. I started putting out my music last year. And the first thing they ask you in order to put out music, you must have it. Back in the day, you had to get signed to get distributed, because if 1 million people was going to listen to your music, they need to print 1 million CDs or 1 million records. Today it's streamed, so you don't need to do that. So to put out music, you need a publisher, you need a distributor. Distributor now you have the Disco Kid and other digital forms to put music out. So once you put your music out, it's all about your promotion, your personal marketing plan after that. If you're living in New York or America, if you live in America, outside of the Caribbean, the amount that you get per record versus the amount you get per record in the Caribbean is not the same. You get significantly less in the Caribbean. Then think about this, right? You take any one of them Trinidad artists or any Jamaican artist, whether it be Boy or Swanee from Trinidad, or you take who's running it right now? You take Dexter Daps, or you take TJ, and you Google their music, right? And see how much streams they got, right? They got the same amount of streams as any large American artist. You'll see 10 million streams, 15 million streams, 20 million views on YouTube, right? But the money's not the same, and the analogs. This is where the business part comes in. It's not the same. You figure somebody from the Caribbean is getting 20 million plays. They should be on everybody suggests listen to this hot and streaming. But yet those things are not popping up on your YouTube or your suggestion list or on your IG. They're not, because they're being blocked. So what you're seeing is what they want you to see. Not only that, they're not paying you the same. So the meanwhile, while the Caribbean fighting against itself to say who's authentic and where's this music come, and music came from this, and you say came from Africa, but yet yes, Africa stole dancehall music and call it Afrobeats. It's crazy. That's so preposterous to me. If Africa is the motherland, right? Again, off topic a little bit.
No, I love this Afro beats, and say make that point again as it relates to Afrobeat.
So everybody's robbing from the Caribbean.
Okay.
Everybody is. While the Caribbean is fighting amongst themselves. And guess what? American labels or American distributors would say, oh, Caribbean music doesn't make that much money and it's hard to market. Caribbean people are hard to read, hard to gauge, right? Well, if that's the truth, why is Afrobeat so successful? Because it's not. These things are told to us, so we keep in this state of oppression where we just keep oppressing ourselves. Afrobeats has stolen from dancehall music. The whole vibe of Afrobeats is not African at all. You listen to traditional African music, and then you listen to Afrobeats. Even the twang is stolen. Most African nations speak French or Portuguese or any one of these colonial languages. But yet still they stole from dancehall. But dancehall, the Caribbean people didn't make an uproar. They say, oh no, it's Africa, the motherland. So we came from the motherland. So the motherland steal it, the so-called motherland, I'm gonna say, steal it, then fine, it's okay. But if reggaeton, this is how petty we are in the Caribbean. But if reggaeton puts out reggae and there's a big lawsuit between Steely and Cleary about the reggaeton because they say the foundation for reggaeton came from dancehall, nobody's denying that. But there's a huge class act lawsuit, right? And the lawsuit is almost to cripple that genre. And they're saying they're outraged by the music being stolen and this, that. But the people that are perpetuating this oppression of us, including Africa, nobody in the Caribbean is saying nothing. And this is where we find ourselves in this cycle of what's next for Caribbean music. What was the last international Caribbean artist to step up besides Shaggy, Sean Paul, or Bob Marley? What was the last Caribbean artist to make a huge name? And if this is not strategically done, and then you go look at the history of dancehall artists or Caribbean artists, and then see what it is about Caribbean artists. Certain Caribbean artists are banned from the US.
Right.
Right. And it involves what the culture, certain things Caribbean artists would not promote. You're not going to hear them saying certain things about A, B, C, D, E, F, G, LGBTQ. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
These guys are off limits.
Yeah, we can say it in this class, LGBTQIA.
You say something about them and you end up in jail for 8 years like Buju Banton, right?
Okay.
Right. So what the whole purpose is, my thing is this: the level of self-hate, self-discrimination, and we all the same people. Because I might not say a word like you might not say a word like me. No, it's not authentic or it's not this. Yet still, you look at other genres, right? That's not the issue. There's an artist from U.S. Virgin Islands called Pressure Bus Pipes, if you know him, and he was talking about that. Like he said, if I stay authentic to dancehall, Virgin Island people don't support me. If I stay to Virgin Island, Jamaica is not going to accept me. So now I'm stuck in between a hard place. And really, if you look at all we arguing is who could say the slave master tongue better. That's a debate. Who's authentic with the oppressive language that we got from our colonial masters, from wherever we was at, and who has mastered that dialect? And that has been the fight for Caribbean artists as a whole. And but I'll say this about there's things I don't like about this new generation, especially the Trinidad. But what I do like about them is their mentality. There's like, this is it. This is what we presented. This is what came from us, and take it or leave it. And guess what? Everybody's this new generation of Trinidad, Jamaican, Barbadian, wherever you at, they don't care. You find that older generation still holding on to that. Oh no, it got to be authentic. It didn't come from Jamaica. you know, it's tons of things that I know I'm a little bit all over the place. Maybe some people give me some questions I can
Yeah,
hone
we're
in
gonna
with
take
that.
a break. So far, base, you have made some powerful points. You talk about the fact that it talk about the issue of culture, and
Mm,
while you were speaking, it's quite interesting because um earlier I was talking to the class about Frantz Fanon, and I think I made a note of it. I was early I talked about Frantz Fanon. He said the Negro is not any more than the black man.
mm,
And he talks about how the problem of culture, the problem of culture and the problem of society. You said that it wasn't something. You said that about the issue of people weren't accepting of your music
right,
because you weren't authentic. It wasn't because people were gatekeeping or something of this. So you talk about it wasn't accepting. They weren't accepting of Trinidadians doing Jamaican music.
right.
Or, you said, and you talk about the issue of being how society and culture how locks us into a mold. Fanon talks about this, the alienation of our environment. This
Mm,
is quite interesting because this speaks to the very same issue of colonialism and post-colonial theory and how the
right.
music is much part of a culture that has helped to lock us into a particular mold that takes away the uniqueness of self. Yes, am I
Mm.
right? Yes, so
Yes, yeah. It's some things that I would see different from my
yes,
personal belief.
yes.
But more or less the wealth of it is the same.
By the way,
Yeah.
Kenyatta is from Canada. You have the floor. You have a question. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
Um, Forgive me, I'm not remembering the full name of our speaker.
King Shah.
Um, Same shot, right. So I hear you speak, and something that came to mind. So something that came to mind in all of this is
Can we
a
see you?
culture.
Are you able to show your camera?
Uh, sure, just a quick second. Okay.
Yes, yeah, that would be good. I mean, just for when if you're asking if you're speaking, that would be great if you can show so that our speaker can see who is asking him the question. That would be
Mhm.
great. Yeah. But anyway, but you can go ahead and ask the question. If you're having problem with the camera, it's fine. All right,
No, sorry about that. I'm actually working from. I'm still kind of just doing some work, so I have to
that's
make sure
good.
that my.
That's all right. That's fine. Go
All
ahead.
right. So I hear you speak about the music, specifically referring to dancehall, and I do agree with some of the points that you made. But one
Mm,
thing that came up, what a thought that came to mind was acculturation and colonialism. I'm trying to remember the proper term here, so if you can assist me.
yeah.
So I know that, for example, in Trinidad, with the different ethnic groups and how soca was born, and soca was born as a combination of the Indian population as well as from the African community. And that's how soca was born. So I guess the question I'm asking you is, and you actually touched on it a little as it relates to the growth within the music industry,
Mm,
right? So what you're seeing now is you're seeing different genres combining, specifically
mm,
the dancehall soca. You're finding that there's a lot happening. For example, in April, every carnival season between Jamaica and Trinidad, there is a Twitter feud because persons are comparing the fact that Jamaicans are stealing soca music
right.
and amongst other cultural stuff. And then you're speaking about Afro beats, which is also a combination of, well, dancehall reggae as well as the different beats.
Mm.
So what is your view on that? Do you still consider that growth, collaboration? How do you still view that? especially with
Right.
the fact that you still have that tug of war happening. For example,
Mm-hmm.
there is a particular, I cannot remember his name. He has a few songs which are quite popular now. He was born Jamaican,
Mm-hmm.
but I think he grew up in Antigua, one of those Caribbean islands. And there's still that conversation that speaks to his actual roots, whether he's Jamaican or not.
Right.
Yeah. So I want to hear your opinion on
Right. Two things. I want to address something. I heard you said that soca music is the combination of Indian culture and Trinidad. I don't consider us African. I don't consider myself African. No Caribbean people African. I believe that we're Hebrews, Israelites per se, and that's what make African soca music. I disagree with that. Soca music solely came from the so-called Black community. Why would I make that statement? Because I said I played folklore drumming. Folklore drumming in Trinidad, there's no writing up the history, is word of mouth, but it originated from what was there first. And when you look at the names of the rhythms, soca existed already. So it came out of the culture. Even if you look at Trinidad culture, it'll tell you that there's a combination with the Indians and Indian culture and soca music. It's called chutney music, where the Indians, the East Indians who came over there as indentured slaves, fused with the soca music, and that's how you get chutney music. And that's a music in Trinidad that is fused. When I was growing up, soca music was predominantly done by the blacks, and then you had one or two Indian artists coming in to that. So I just want to make that clear. Now, your question is
Wait,
there
I know since you're making a point about that, because I think in a previous class we talked about the fact that African sailors came from Africa to the Caribbean before Christopher Columbus and the Europeans. Remember?
Right.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry about.
So I don't believe that they were African at all. They were Hebrew. They were Israelites. When you do the history, they tell you in 17 A.D. Caesar Vespasius, and this is a renowned part of history. It's called the siege of the siege of Jerusalem. It's 17 A.D. The Caesar that exists during Rome that time was Caesar Vespasius, and it was known during that time that the Israelites and the real Jews were black. We fled from oppression from Caesar Vespasius into East Africa. We migrated from East Africa to West Africa. That's why when you see certain Nigerians, you'll hear they say, "Are you Igbo or Yoruba?" Igbo sound like Hebrew. There's a reason for that. We migrated on that half. If you ever look at the movie Shaka Zulu, you see Shaka Zulu saying in the movie, why, when they asked him for his people to be enslaved, he said, "Why would you get the Hebrews that are nearby?" My belief is that the people that came off of the diaspora of Africa that was picked up in 1616 and then taken to Haiti, first slaves arrived in America in 1619. They were Israelites. They were Jews. We were Hebrews. We lead, people follow. We originate everything. You look at everything that came out, that was originated, music, culture, all of that. I'm gonna get to your question, I'm sorry. All of that originated from the people that came off the diaspora. The instruments that were created in the 20th century, or either they were from the Americas, the Caribbean, or Latin America, all part of the diaspora where we came off into slavery, because we're not the same people. So just wanted to clear that up. That's my belief. That's just my belief in where I stand. As far as growth with the music, I believe that this younger generation, it is growth. I want to say that first. I agree that there is growth. I believe the artist you talk about is Brian Messiah. If I'm pronouncing his name right, I'm sorry. And yes, I believe that this, like I said, this younger generation, they don't have that apprehensive setback that my generation had. where the gatekeepers were blocking us. Technology has made it where the gatekeepers no longer keep the gate. Somebody else is keeping the gate. The people that own the technology is keeping the gate. So now we have a bigger fight. But these new artists are putting their music out there, and they're coming from all different parts of the Caribbean. As far as fusion of music, I agree. It's also grouped for dancehall. I think Bounty Killer said it first. I think what's his name? Justin Bieber did a reggae song, and I think Mr. Vegas had a whole uprising about they're stealing our culture. And just to piggyback the brother that had the question, sorry if I don't remember your name. Bounty Killer response was this. He said, "I don't care who's singing reggae music. If it's somebody else singing it and it's catching and it's going to the masses, it's a win for reggae music." So I do think that is grouped for the genre. What I'm referring to is the stigma they have on the genre that says the music is not international music. The music doesn't generate good economics. That is what I'm disagreeing with. And the fact that we so focus on each other, fighting against each other, while other people are doing what we're doing more successful than us. This not do I credit these events, but I think it was the Grammys for the reggae performance. There was all Afro artists. There was not one Caribbean artist on the stage to represent Caribbean music for the genre of dancehall or reggae. They use Afro artists to do that, and that let us know where we at in impact with the world. And I don't believe it's because it's a lack of talent. I don't think that's what I believe. I believe talent is strategically being held back. How you know that? There's certain artists in Jamaica that can't get a visa to come abroad to not only to work their music, but to promote their music and take tours and do what it takes for artists to become international. And then a lot of it too is strategic because how is it that, and I was subject to this too when I first started. I'll give you an example. When I started doing music, the Vibes Cartel was running rampant. It was the biggest thing. The more vulgar, the more explicit, the more violent Vibes Cartel was, the more his music got pushed. So for upcoming artists like me, so what is that telling me? That's telling me I need to be more explicit with my lyrics. I need to be more vulgar. I need to be more violent. And those things will get pushed. So you push it. You if you're in the Caribbean or you're in Trinidad and you're watching the artists that are successful, the artists that are successful are the same artists that are preaching this negativity. So now, is that negative music going to be an appeal for the international market? More than likely not. Because if I'm just making music for my garrison or for my hood or to represent my people, sometimes so there's no rules to music. So even though I'm saying this, there's always going to be the exception. But if my music is being oppressed and suppressed, I feel this is what I need to hit my core audience. And I'm not looking at the world core audience because I don't feel like I could get to them. I'm going to be stuck creating this music. So I don't feel like there's a lack of talent. I don't feel like there's a lack of inspiration. I don't feel like it's any of that. I think it's all of this stuff is strategic. I think us fighting against ourselves as Caribbean people help perpetuate the market the way it's going and help us be distracted while everybody is getting rich off of our talent. So while there is some progression, there's also a lot of regression. And until we as a people come together and say, listen, there need to be a structure for reggae music. And that's my personal opinion. I think without a shadow of doubt, all homage go to Jamaica when it comes to dancehall music. That's where it originated. I don't think there's any artist that touch that genre that should not pay their respect to all the people that laid the foundation for it. But at some point, dancehall has to set its category up. I'm gonna show you how deeply this oppression will walk. Everybody, I don't know if anybody got iTunes on or what's it called, or Apple Music.
Apple Music, yeah.
There is no genre for reggae music. There is no genre for soca. You go on reggae music, you get all the soca artists, you get all the reggae artists. Matter of fact, they don't know the difference between reggae and dancehall. They don't know drum and bass, roots and culture. And even in reggae, you got roots, you got culture, you got lovers rock, you got all of these stuff. They don't break that up. They put us all, this is how they think about it. They put us all in one culture. But guess who got their own genre right now? Afrobeat. And if they want to say, well, it's because of the market, well, guess what? Shaggy till this day wins 16 times platinum. Now he's up there with more, and one of the highest selling artists of all time is Bob Marley.
Yeah.
So if you want to talk about we didn't get our genre, own genre because of economics or how much of the market we got, that's BS. It's BS. So we're not really looking at how large the web of our oppression is. And they're doing the same thing that they have always done to us. In the Willie Lynch theory, divide them, you fight amongst ourselves. Meanwhile, they stealing our culture and making everybody else rich off of it, while we still bickering amongst each other. I don't know if did I answer your question?
Wow, that's what a powerful point. So colonialism continues even up to today, even in the music. But this is really rich. Kenyatta, I know you had your hand up. Anybody else having? I don't know if you have a follow. Anybody? Any other question? Anybody else? No question from the Kenyatta. I see your hand up. You had a follow-up question. Go ahead.
Yes, sir, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, you don't have any questions. Okay, that's it. So I think everybody is fully engaged. They are listening to you deeply. Since there's any more question, I don't know if you can continue with if you have any other presentation, because this is deep and I know there is much more to say. But finally, I know you said that you talk about soca, probably there might be controversy.
Yeah, you get it.
Relates to the whole where soca music come from, because now we are hearing that some people are saying the Indians brought it, and other people are saying no, it comes from the original African people there. Why is there so much contention between so much contention as it relates to the music? And of course, but we know that there was always a political divide
Right.
in Trinidad and Tobago,
Right.
especially between, I mean, the black people, or the people who they say are more of African descent, and those who are from India and so on. And so I don't know if that played in the whole confusion about who started the music, where the music came from, and so forth. And so any comment on that, by the way? Do you think that politics has a role to play in this contention between talking about the origination of the music?
I mean, politics always has the music is so powerful. You remember when people went out to armies?
Yeah.
Armies lead out to march. What was at the head of the army? The drums, the keys.
Yes, the drummers, yes.
The army is coming through. That it brought so music is one of the key things that they use, especially for people that are oppressed. If I keep degrading women, if I keep degrading people, and at that time, even the people that are putting out music and the people that are in control of music will say, "Give me a record like this, give me a record like that," which is a large topic. But as a people, and this is why it makes no sense for us to hate on ourselves. As a people, we hated by everybody. Every other race hates us. You find out that as soon as you go into a store, as soon as we in this apparel of this particular vessel that we carry, we walk around. We majestic from the time we touch the floor. Women are amazing to look at. We demand attention, and with that demand for that, because this is the way we was created. With that come a lot of negativity as well. It's almost like they love to hate us. There's a scripture that tells us that when the children of Israel were taken into slavery by the oppressors, the first thing the slave masters said to them is, "Sing us one of your songs that you are famous for," right? I feel like it's always going to be a political agenda attached to music. The first you hear any, especially in the States of America here, especially when they are addressing Black people, and this is where the responsibility came in for music. Well, I'm musician role models, and I have a particular position for me as an artist as well. And then the first thing they attack is the music. Well, you hear them calling their women B's and they calling the men N's, and this is what their music portrays. So now if you come out here and they talking about they being oppressed, it's the music that's perpetuating the violence. The music is talking about the trapping, and the music is talking about chopping the line, selling drugs, and all these other things, right? But the environment that cooked up that music is what you provided. Then when you look at the music industry and like I said, you look at the most successful artists, and that's what young artists are looking at. The goal is the target is the most successful. If the most successful person is talking about all these other negative things, of course, I'm gonna make a record like that because my goal is to get the ear of the same audience that you got, so I can have my success as well. So political agendas is always going to be attached to the music, because who listen to the music? The people. So of course, that's going to be one of the key things. I think the problem with our people is this: we don't have an identity. Trinidadian is not a race. It's not even a nationalism. This is something that was told. The word Trinidad means three. Jamaica means waters. And then you go on the islands. Are you people called waters? Our people are older than I think what's the Caribbean? First in the 1700s we were brought there. 300 years ago. Our people are older than 400 years ago. So how is it that now we're being called Jamaican? So what were we called before that? And it wasn't African, because Africa is the name of a Roman general. That diaspora wasn't called African. We didn't come from Africa. All these things is part of the oppression of our people. And then you hear the music talking about let's go back to repatriation and go back to Africa and hail Selassie, and all these other things didn't come from us. This knowledge was taught to us and it was perpetuated through the music. So yeah, music will have a political agenda, of course, especially when it comes in. We are people that are brainwashed from our identity. So what's the best way to do that? Have your children sing it. How did you learn the ABCs? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So you learn from music. Music has a powerful part. And guess what? Because we were cut off from years and years of our history, some of these things we don't know. And guess what? The average person is walking down this lane of ignorance into this part of utterly destruction. And that's what's happening to us as a culture of a people. Everybody else has their hand in our things, and we're not focusing on that. We're focusing on hating each other. I think that's one of the biggest things that colonialism was successful at, dividing us by color, by skin color, by language, by country, and having people be patriotic. There's a book called it came out in the 1800s. It's called the Crowd: The Study of the Populist Mind and the Psychology of Crowds. And the whole focus of that book is a focus of, remember the whole Rome as a whole, right? When you think of Rome, and the book is focused on Rome because Rome came closest to the one world order, spreading the empire of Rome all everywhere it was. Then you had England pick up the same thing. There was a saying that the sun will never set in England. Why? Because they own so many colonial providences. When it's setting in one place, it's rising in another. The goal is that one world order. It has always been that one world order. And one of the things that they talked about in that book is breaking the old culture. One of the things they talked about was the religion. He said that even when you talk about fascism, when you look at Mussolini and you look at Hitler, they all had the same agenda: spread the empire as much as you can with our mentality, with our way of thinking. And all of those things feed into the same thing that have us divided as a people. Because this is hundreds and hundreds of years of psychology, of ways to oppress, the ways to break people, rob them of their identity, strip them of their culture, strip them of their God, give them false gods, have them patriotic to a land that is not your land, or call you by a race of people that is not your people. But Africa is the name of a Roman general. Not that we're African anyway, but people that call themselves Africanos. That's what you're calling yourself. You don't have the blood of Africanus running through your veins. You don't have the blood of Trinidad running through your veins, or Jamaica, because these are made up names. But yet our patriotism to this is ridiculous. Trini to the bone. And when you look at fascism, and Mussolini, but he was talking, and you read that book, The Crowd, and you see what Karl Marx, because Karl Marx read that book, The Crowd. That's how he came up with the Communist Manifesto and all these things.
That's
This was the
capital.
foundation. Huh?
That's capital.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
right. So certain things they already knew. And they knew that to break up people, you had to steal them at their identity, make them patriotic to their land, that it was not their land, and patriotic to identity, that's not your identity. And then say, be proud of this culture. What are you proud of? What we salvaged from our slavery? Shouldn't we be looking to focus on where we came from? Like I said from the beginning, we studying about where soca came from. Guess what? Music came from God. The sound, the rhythm, look, there are genres that don't exist no more. So genres gonna come and go. Disco don't exist no more. Ska don't exist no more. These are all musics that were a genre. They're not a genre no more. But still, people are music. And like you said, brother said it well. I agree with him. The music is moving forward, because why? As culture changes, as people change, as we get opened up to more different things and fusions of music, the sound of music, people don't DJ like they used to DJ back in the day. Like, me get up in the morning and say we go. Nobody needs spit like that no more. Time change, people change, and I think as that the key thing is what they did to us as a people. They made music reflected culture. When you read the Bible and talk about David setting up the holy choir in the book of Chronicles, whatever we believed that God was the creator. Guess what the music will be about? The music will be about God as the creator. And guess what? The musicians were not bigger than the cause. How is it that musicians and comedian is a jester? These are not people who you go to gain wisdom. Musicians reflect the culture. How are they more famous than wise men? How is it that you have artists that are on the same stratosphere as political leaders? Because now you put them on the forefront and you give them fame and you give them money. So this is the aspiration now. And now you're looking at this person, which ties it all in, where you look at this person like, whatever this artist say, that's what I'm gonna do. If Cardi B say, got to be wap, 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 then it's gonna be wap. Like mac and cheese, that's what it's gonna be. So now you focus on this artist that got this fame and that got this prestige, and now you gave up all your morals for it. And that's how politics has always used music. Whereas it was different. The wise men said stuff, inspired artists, and the artists perpetuated the culture. No, we don't like Chichi Man. We don't like Bati Man. No, that's not part of the culture. And that's where you get that music from. No, we don't like women that dress like us. We don't like Sketel. You see how the culture changed? Now everybody want a bad Barbie whore. Every artist is singing that. So of course, politics is perpetuating the culture. And what girls walk around saying, I remember when I was growing up in high school, you couldn't call a girl a B. But now you tell a girl she a bad B, that's a compliment. So of course, music is going to perpetuate. I mean, politics is going to have its hand heavy weaving in the music culture. I think somebody got their hand up.
Yes. Fabian, go ahead. Quite interesting, quite powerful. Yes, Fabian, go ahead.
I guess our guest has touched some of the point for the questions I wanted to ask. Because earlier, what I heard was that Caribbean music is held back by Caribbean people.
Right.
And then then it was further stated that it's my own words, not the author, my own words, that somehow our music is being held back by persons who might have other interests. And because of that, other persons may not be able to break through the barrier to have the music out there.
Right.
I was just wondering if it was one and the same thing. I call it a cabala of forces that tries to drown out our music unless there's something in it that interests them. And I think the example was given by the type of music that is put out there, such as a cartel. Once it is rude and loud and stuff like that, then it is gravitated to and promoted. It's not really a question anymore because based on our discussion leading up to now, I could figure out some of the answers to the question that I wanted to ask. But in this situation, is it we who are really holding us back? Because they also talk about the Caribbean experience in New York, whereby if you are not authentic Jamaican, you can't do dancehall, which I think is unfair because Jamaican do soca music in the past, and we had soca bands and stuff like that, and I grew up knowing them like Byron Lee and the Dragonaires. So
even Peter Touch himself said he used to sing calypso. So calypso.
Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know. That's interesting. I didn't know that. So I guess that is it really us, or have we developed a culture? Because you also touch on the fact that Trinidadian are not racist. But if you're underground, underground here in Jamaica, it is widely felt among the population that all the Caribbean islands, natives are biased towards us. So is it that when we find ourselves in a particular environment and other Caribbean natives trying to adopt our music, we feel that we should be biased towards them too? Is there a psychology of that? And further to that, those who do not have our interest at heart, that was the question I wanted to ask.
Right.
They set up their system, their music system in such a way that they study the psychology of the people of where the music is coming from and how they can generate the music in such a way to suit their markets.
Right.
So is it a sense that we have not yet learned how to be on the big stage like them, to have all the players in the field? Because if an artist must know, I'm not gonna need a manager to go out there and all of that stuff. But they take it from a business level where they will employ the psychologists to study the market, to study the music, to study the effect on a particular population and stuff like that. So they will invest all of that. Have we not yet caught up where they are so that we can promote our own music?
Wow. So